3 Sinister Craigslist encounters revealed horrors that haunt and terrify the unwary. Sarah's heart pounded as she scrolled through Craigslist, a mix of desperation and dread pooling in her stomach. She couldn't shake the chill crawling up her spine every time a new post lit up her screen. At 32, with an 8-year-old son to care for and bills piling high, she felt cornered. Every night after long shifts at the diner, she returned home to the comforting chaos of Ethan's laughter, a love so profound it dulled the edges of her reality. Yet financial struggles gnawed at her like a persistent rat, relentless and hungry. Creepy encounters were not just a possibility, they were an inevitability. With the crisp October air filled with the scent of decaying leaves, each creaky step onto her front porch felt like a warning. The first posting had promised quick cash for gardening services. It led her to a vacant lot, overrun with weeds. There, she met him, a disheveled man with an unsettling grin and clothes stained by who knows what. His eyes gleamed with a feral glint, a predator sizing up his prey. She could feel her heart race, a compulsion to run bubbling inside her. As he handed her his business card, his hands had come too close, a grimy reminder that this was all wrong. Sarah cut the encounter short, feeling shadows draw closer, their whispers edging on threatening. Suppressing that dread, she pushed forward in search of the next opportunity. A handyman for small repairs popped up, the ad promising to restore her home into something welcoming. The address led her deep into the heart of an old, eerie school on the outskirts of town. The atmosphere crackled with unease, a thick fog of foreboding that clawed at her sanity. The handyman, charming yet dangerous, eyed her too closely as he swaggered around like he owned the place. Something in the weighty silence echoed darker than the peeling paint on the walls. It felt like a trap, each creak of the aged building reminding her of secrets too sinister to unearth. But with Ethan's future weighing on her mind, she pushed past the fear, ignoring her instincts screaming for her to leave. At a community event, the town's elusive councilman caught her eye. He was the embodiment of everything she thought was safe. His welcoming smile made her stomach twist from a familiar unease that shadowed her thoughts. Tales of his family's dark lineage burrowed in her mind, and that buried folklore clutched at her heart. As he spoke of lost traditions, veiled in allure, Sarah felt the hairs on her neck rise, an unshakable dread creeping back. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the chilling puzzle pieces began to connect, a mural of nightmares unveiled itself before her eyes. The handyman, the gardener, and the councilman each bore a sinister thread woven through their interactions. The rhythmic beating of her heart quickened with dread as she realized the truth: her community was harbored by monsters hiding behind masks of familiarity. Shadows danced around her, whispering dangerous lies, blending tradition with terror, leaving no doubt that she was inadequate against the mounting menace closing in on her world. How far would she go to save Ethan from these lurking threats? The horrifying realization loomed like an executioner's blade, and time was ticking away. The sanctuary of her home felt like a mausoleum as she frantically searched for a way to disentangle herself from this dark fate. Would her instincts be enough to protect the one light that remained in her life, or would the creeping horror finally snuff it out forever? The silence of her home felt suffocating. Sarah could hear the ticking of the clock, each second a stark reminder of the limited time she had to find a way out. Ethan was tucked safely in bed, blissfully unaware of the encroaching menace. If only her instincts could guide her through this nightmare, but they felt like a fog, clinging to her thoughts like an unwanted memory. The next day, she returned to Craigslist, desperation fueling her every keystroke. Each ad sent spirals of anxiety twisting in her gut. Was there truly any safe work left? It was overwhelming, the number of desperate souls seeking survival just like her. Then, one ad caught her eye, whispering promises of help and care. A local community outreach program was offering assistance to single parents. At first, it seemed like a lifeline. But as she read between the lines, an unspeakable dread clawed its way to the forefront. What exactly did this outreach entail? The accompanying photo depicted a group of smiling faces, too perfect, their eyes shimmering unnaturally under the soft glow of outdoor lanterns. It was almost as if they were beckoning her into their fold, a fold that might hide ulterior motives. But the desperation gnawed at her heart like relentless hunger. Sarah decided she had to check it out, no matter the risk. With a mix of anxiety and resolve, she drove to the location, a dilapidated old house on the edge of town, its grandeur long since faded. It stood alone, swallowed by overgrown trees, resembling a dark castle shrouded in shadows. The porch creaked ominously under her weight as she stepped closer, and with each footfall, her heart hammered against her ribcage. Knocking on the heavy wooden door felt like an invitation to doom, but she knocked anyway. Seconds dragged on before it creaked open, revealing a woman dressed in too bright clothing. Her smile was wide, teeth gleaming like a predator's welcome. "We've been waiting for you," she said, her voice almost too sweet, too syrupy. Inside, the air was thick with an unsettling stillness. The others in the group wore odd smiles, their eyes heavy-lidded and unfocused. It felt wrong, so intensely wrong that instinct kicked in again. Sarah turned to leave, but the woman's grip on her arm was ironclad. "Why hurry? We're family here. We can help you and Ethan. Join us." Every instinct howled for her to flee, yet something deep inside her whispered, "What if this is the answer?" She felt the weight of her responsibilities pressing her down, drowning her in confusion. She needed help. But at what cost? Suddenly, a low murmur began to ripple through the room, a chant almost, echoing softly against the walls. The words felt old, almost ancient. They prickled at the skin on the back of her neck, feigning warmth as they spread dread through her veins. As the chant grew louder, her grip loosened on the world outside, and she fought against the pull, desperate to reach their darkness. "Ethan," she gasped under her breath. Visions of him being swallowed whole by this ominous darkness made her stomach turn. "Just one more step, just let go," the woman coaxed, and Sarah's mind screamed in defiance. But time was running short. It felt as though she was standing on the edge of an abyss, one wrong step sending her tumbling into a fate far worse than any of her earlier encounters. As the chanting intensified, shadows flickered at the corners of her vision, growing longer and darker, enveloping everything she held dear. Could she escape? Or would she succumb to the very horrors she had fought against for so long? In that moment, as the voices swirled around her, a revelation burst into her mind. Sometimes, the biggest threat comes not from strangers, but from the familiar, a truth she was now teetering on the brink of discovering. Could she trust herself enough to fight back against the shadows closing in? With her heart racing, she turned sharply, breaking the grip of the woman, determined to fight for Ethan. She sprinted towards the door, adrenaline surging through her veins. As she burst into the night, the chilling laughter of the group echoed behind her, ringing in her ears. You can't escape what you can't see. What loomed ahead was greater than anything she had faced so far. But there was no option for retreat. Would she find safety, or had she inadvertently walked deeper into the malevolent web? The night air chilled her skin as she ventured onward, into the darkness that held the answers to her survival. Something was coming for her. Something she had unleashed. What would she do when the monster finally emerged? The night air clawed at Sarah's skin as she ran, her breath coming in sharp gasps. The laughter from behind twisted into a cacophony, each note echoing like a maddened promise. Every shadow seemed alive, reaching out with icy fingers to snatch her back into the echoing darkness of that house. She had broken free at what cost. Her heart pounded harder against her chest, each beat a violent reminder that she had a choice. She could still save Ethan, still protect him from these shadows. She pressed forward, her instincts screaming as she weaved through the trees lining the path. Their branches arched dangerously above, black silhouettes against the moonlight, whispering promises of horror. Suddenly, she felt a presence unleashed, lurking just beyond her reach. The air around her thickened, twisting into something tangible and cold. A low growl rumbled through the silence, vibrating against her bones. It was searching, hunting. And she was the prey. Sarah's thoughts raced. Had she really escaped, or had she only stumbled deeper into a trap? The streetlights flickered as she neared the road, illuminating her path in intermittent bursts. The warmth of their light felt hesitant, sympathetic to her plight but terrified of what lurked in the dark. Then she heard it. A soft thud behind her. Panic surged, and she glanced back. There, between the trees, she saw a figure, a ghostly silhouette moving with unnatural grace. A splayed hand slowly reached forth, as if willing her to draw nearer. But it wasn't he beckoning her closer, it was pulling her in, magnetized by that insidious chant that still echoed in her mind. Ethan, the whisper slipped from her lips, each syllable thick with dread. The image of her son flashed through her mind, sleeping soundly, blissfully unaware of the danger. She couldn't let this evil touch him. Adrenaline surged again as she sprinted toward the street, legs moving on instinct. The road approached like a beacon of hope, but her resolve wavered. What if the house, the group, what if they had already reached him? Her thoughts spiraled. She couldn't think like this, she had to focus, but the growling intensified. It reverberated through the darkness, a beast awakened and relentless. She stumbled against the rough asphalt of the road, the impact sending shockwaves of pain through her ankle. She looked up, straining her ears. A car approached, headlights slicing through the shadows, a guardian angel illuminating her path. In an instant, she was waving her arms frantically, desperate to stop the vehicle. A teenage boy behind the wheel slammed on the brakes, his eyes wide with shock. "What is happening?" he yelled, panic rising. "Please, I need to get to my son." The words spilled from her mouth, raw and coated in urgency. The boy hesitated, his eyes darting to the tree line. She could see the fear in his gaze, a reflection of her own, but it was no time to wait. A chill swept over her as the growl turned into a howl, a sound laced with hunger, piercing the night. Without waiting another second, she lunged into the back seat, gasping for breath as the boy took off. "Go! Just go!" she screamed as they sped away, the tires screeching against the asphalt. But as they drove into the night, the air outside thickened again as if racing to catch them. Shadows danced along the road's edge, swirling outside the car like a dark tempest. "Your mom okay?" the boy asked, glancing back with uncertainty. I have to get home. I'm not safe." The words tumbled out, but doubt crept in. What if she had brought danger with her into the car? What if they were followed? Suddenly, a shadow lunged into the path ahead, dark and massive. The boy swerved, panic written all over his face as the engine roared, tires skidding. Sarah's heart fell into her stomach. There was no escape. They were trapped in the web she'd stumbled into. And worse, Ethan was still out there, waiting. But was he waiting for a savior, or was he already lost to the encroaching darkness? As the car skidded to the side, Sarah braced for impact, a new certainty ringing in her mind: survival. Came at a price, and she might have already paid it. What horror awaited her on the other side? The car jerked violently as it skidded to a halt, sending Sarah crashing into the back seat. Dizzy and disoriented, she struggled to gather her thoughts. The boy behind the wheel was shouting, but her mind buzzed like a trapped insect, frantically searching for clarity. What was that? He gasped, glancing in the rearview mirror with wild eyes. Her heart raced at the thought of whatever had chased her. "We have to get out of here." The urgency in her voice matched the intensity of her pounding heart. But the moment she spoke, the lights from the car flickered ominously, dimming and then flaring back up, like a dying star. "Hang on. The boy slammed the gas pedal down, sending them careening down the road. Trees blurred by, menacing shapes in the dark. The howl returned, louder, sharper now. It seemed to echo from all directions, reverberating off the metal shell of the car, surrounding them in a chilling sound. Eyes darting, Sarah scanned the sides of the road. Somewhere between the trees, shadows moved in chaotic dance. Her breath caught in her throat as she caught a fleeting glimpse of figure, hunched, crawling just outside the range of their headlights. Its eyes glowed with a predatory hunger. "Drive faster!" she yelled, her voice shrill with panic. "We can't stop." The boy's knuckles went white as he gripped the steering wheel, fear sapping his confidence. "Where do we even go?" he shouted back at her. She could see the glimmer of sweat on his forehead, the tremors in his hands. Just keep going. Head to the police station." The words tumbled out, though she wasn't sure if that was the right choice. The fleeting reassurance of safety began to diminish as the howl grew louder. Another shadow darted in front of the car, forcing the boy to swerve again. With a nauseating lurch, Sarah felt the weight in her stomach drop as they veered toward the edge of the road. "Watch out!" she screamed, the world going still for a heartbeat as the headlights illuminated a small dog, lost and bewildered in the dark. Surreal clarity washed over her. She had no time for such thoughts, the urgency of the moment pulling her back. They were losing time. What the hell? The boy slammed on the brakes, but the car skidded sideways, the tires cutting into the gravel, losing grip. Time stretched into a horrifying eternity as the vehicle swept around, the world around them dipping into chaos. And then, everything stopped. The car lurched to a halt, now teetering dangerously off the road, the engine sputtering like a dying whisper. Sarah's heart dropped. They were stranded. The howl sounded again, closer this time. A dark silhouette emerged from the tree line, moving with a predatory slink. Sarah's mind raced, adrenaline flooding her system. "Get out! Now!" The boy looked frozen, terror etched into his very being. "I can't just leave the car. Ethan needs me." Summoning the last reserves of her courage, Sarah threw open the door and bolted into the night. The chill bit against her bare skin, remaining oblivious to the harsh cold. She didn't know where to run. Her instincts drove her to a nearby patch of trees, half hidden in foliage. She cast a desperate glance back. The boy finally followed her, scrambling into the shadows. But their escape came at a price. As they crouched together beneath the branches, the silhouette faded into the darkness, its growls reverberating, echoing through the still night air. "Do you think it's gone?" the boy whispered, his breathing coming in quick, fearful bursts. "I don't know," Sarah replied, looking over her shoulder. The shadows closed in around them, overwhelming in their presence. "We can't stay here. We have to find Ethan." But the fear, the insecurity, gripped her harder than ever. As she took a step forward, she felt a cold hand tug at her mind, threaded with a familiar chant. A wave of nausea washed over her. What if Ethan wasn't in danger at all? What if he was a part of whatever horror had chased her to this moment? The boy stepped closer, glancing at her with uncertainty. "Sarah, what if what?" The words slipped from her lips, heavy with doubt. The air around them thickened, a sense of impending doom approaching. "I don't think I can't escape this." The darkness lurked closer, watching them, waiting. An apprehensive silence settled, pressing them both beneath its weight. All thoughts of safety faded. Inchoate fear coiled tightly in her chest. What if there were no shadows at all? What if Ethan had already joined them in the depths of the darkness? Just then, a chilling whisper broke through the air, melodious and mocking. Sarah turned anxiously, eyes widening. She felt the ground beneath her shake, resonating with her heart's pounding. The chant grew louder. And then, she heard it. Soft footsteps drawing near, calling her name. Sarah echoing from the tree line. Her breath froze. Was it him? Or was it the dark that had claimed him, seeking to draw her in as well? As she slowly stepped back into that tide of shadows, everything grew dark. What lay ahead was no longer clear. But she had to find out no matter the cost. A cold shiver ran down Sarah's spine. The voice, familiar yet twisted, seemed to wrap around her like a noose. Ethan, the sound echoed in her ears, drawing her deeper into the gloom. A pitiful yearning struggled within her. Could it really be him? Or something far worse? Stay back, she hissed, clenching her fists. The boy beside her trembled, his pale face illuminated by fleeting flashes of shock and dread. It's not him. It can't be, he pleaded, his voice cracking. The chant hung in the air like a fog, its sinister resonance wrapping around them, thickening the night with malevolence. Ethan! She shouted into the void, desperation clawing at her throat. There was silence, then a soft giggle, like a child playing hide and seek. A shadow drifted closer, shape-shifting in the dark. Sarah, it was still there, that beguiling voice, sweet as honey but sharp as a blade. Her heart hammered violently against her ribcage, each beat punctuating her mounting panic. We have to go, she urged, her voice barely above a whisper. But even as she turned to pull the boy toward the safety of the trees, another chilling howl erupted from the depths of the woods. It filled the air with an unsettling rage, and in an instant, their world morphed into a nightmare. The boy slumped against her, paralyzed by fear. I can't move, I can't do this. Ethan needs us. We have to find him. She fought against his grip, dragging him towards the shadows that loomed like a maelstrom of despair. But his feet remained rooted, as if the ground had conspired against them. Sarah, look, he trembled, gesturing hesitantly toward the silhouette now beckoning at the edge of the trees. Her blood ran cold. The figure stood half-hidden in the blackness, a cloak of night draping over its form. Familiar features twisted in a grotesque parody of recognition, half-illuminated by the moonlight breaking through the canopy. Ethan? She called cautiously, doubt cascading through her veins. What if it's not him? The boy croaked, grappling with the weight of the choice. The chant morphed again, forming a rhythm, beating against them, demanding attention. Sarah, the figure sang, now moving toward them with slow, deliberate grace. Laughter slipped through its lips, too smooth, too coated in malice. Come closer, sister. There's nothing to fear yet. Run! She shouted, finally breaking the boy's spell of paralysis. Heart pounding, she broke free from his side, navigating the thick underbrush, pushing her legs to sprint away from the horror that approached. Branches snapped like brittle bones beneath her feet, the echo of her pounding heart mingling with the chase. A receding howl filled the air, chasing her, hungry and relentless. She cast frantic glances behind, catching a glimpse of the boy still crouched by the trees, torn between two worlds. Please! She implored, though her voice faltered under the weight of dark certainty. With one last effort, the boy launched himself from the shadows, desperation etched on his face. Wait! I can't leave him. Ethan's not there. He,s her voice broke as horror dawned on her. Not a brother anymore, but something festering in the dark, eager to draw them back into its embrace. Suddenly, the ground lurched beneath them, the earth seeming to vibrate in angry protest. A hollow growl erupted, building to a crescendo that threatened to swallow her whole. Run! Sarah cried, adrenaline coursing, clutching the boy's arm and dragging him forward. But the shadows clawed after them, blurring the line between night and nightmares. As they stumbled deeper into the woods, the chant transformed into mocking laughter, echoing among the ancient trees. Sarah, the voice grew louder, layering dread over every inch of ground they covered. She felt it again, the cold grip of inevitability, the suffocating realization that whatever sought them was growing closer. Then, just as hope flickered like a dying flame, she spotted a faint light ahead. There! We can make it! She urged, but the shadows thickened around them, the illumination dimming as the night swallowed it whole. They pressed on, fear-heightened breaths pulling them to disregard their reservations. But as they drew closer, the light flickered ominously. Was it salvation or a trap laid by those who waited? The boy stopped, a tremor running through him. What if keep moving? She shouted, but uncertainty seeped into her thoughts as they reached the edge of the clearing. The flickering illumination grew more solid, but it felt wrong, so wrong. The laughter returned, echoing through the expanse. You think you can escape us, Sarah? And as they stepped into the light, a truth unfolded before their eyes. A choice awaited that would define their very souls. But in that moment of hesitant clarity, shadows converged, and darkness loomed, swallowing the light, and with it hope. What awaited them in the depths? The true nature of Ethan and the dark that had pursued her was a question that would remain unanswered for now. The light flickered again, deepening the shadows across the clearing. Sarah's heart raced as she scanned the area, instinctively searching for an escape. The boy stood beside her, wide-eyed and trembling, frozen in place by realization as the laughter surrounded them like a tightening noose. Is this it? The boy whispered, his voice shaking. Is this where it ends? No, Sarah breathed, but dread pooled in her stomach, mixing with a sense of bleak inevitability. They were trapped in a web spun from darkness and lurking horrors. The clearing was vast, illuminated by an eerie glow that seemed to pulse with life but held a dreadful stillness. Dead leaves clung to the ground in a thick layer, muffling their every move. She felt the shadows creeping closer, their cold tendrils creeping along her ankles, reaching for her. Sarah, the boy's voice quivered again, it's coming. I can feel it. In front of them, the flickering light morphed into distinct forms, silhouettes shifted and danced as figures emerged from the darkness. Ethan was now lost among them, an echo of familiarity tainted by a whirling darkness that wrapped around him. It is him. It has to be. She shouted, pushing against the panic flooding her. But deep down, a churning uncertainty crept in. What if it was not the brother she had known? What if that figure was simply a bait, a venomous lure drawing her forward to her doom? Ethan! She called out desperately, her voice piercing the thick air. He turned, eyes hauntingly hollow, a faint glimmer of recognition flickering before they clouded over with shadows. Please! It's me. You have to come back. For a heartbeat, it felt like time stood still. The boy beside her seemed to melt into the ground, swallowed by fear. And then, Ethan's lips curved into a smile, one that revealed far too many teeth and too much darkness. Come play, he beckoned, voice dripping with a twisted sweetness that turned Sarah's stomach. No! She screamed, shock surging through her veins. Stay away! Before Sarah could react, the figures lunged, their movements blurting into an agonizingly swift embrace, a collision of despair that echoed with sinister intent. The boy stumbled back, gasping, slipping against the slick leaves as he tried to escape. Help him! She cried, but it felt futile. The shadows danced around her, closing in tighter, their coldness wrapping around her throat like a tightening grip. She grasped for the boy's arm, but a strong gust swept through the clearing, pushing her back, forcing her to the ground as darkness enveloped them both. Can't you see? One of the figures hissed, stalking closer. He doesn't want to leave. Neither do you. A fresh wave of terror crashed over her. The charade was ending, revealing a truth she had feared. A choice, a sacrifice lured like moths to a flickering flame. She had to decide, and quickly. Panic clutched at her heart, every instinct screaming to flee, to find safety within the encroaching murk. Ethan! We have to fight this! She cried, her voice breaking. The laughter rose, fierce and taunting, mingling with the fervent echo of her heartbeat. Suddenly, the clearing warped, the light flickered erratically as if dimming for good. Choose, sister, a voice droned eerily, echoing through the shadows. Will you save yourself or save him? The boy gasped. Sarah, please, I don't want to be here. Somewhere beyond the shadows, the wind twisted, carrying the remnants of a long-forgotten promise. She felt the weight of their fate pressing down, an ancient pact rising from the depths of fear, but then, beneath the fear, beneath the uncertainty, a small flicker of defiance sparked within her. "Together we fight!" she screamed, lunging forward, dragging the boy with her. And as the darkness surged, she felt raw determination flooding her veins. The figure shrieked, recoiling as she surged toward Ethan, will ignited by a desperate hope. But it was not only Ethan she could save. In this moment, she would tear through the chaos, whatever it took, but fate has its own designs. Before she could reach him, the ground cracked and a deafening roar erupted, pulling them apart. "Sarah!" The boy screamed, his voice merging with the cacophony of hate that exploded around them. In the chaos, realization hit something ancient was awakening, and they were now mere pawns in a game they barely understood. "Where are you?" Sarah cried into the swirling abyss, fear threatening to drown her. And from the depths, the shadows stirred, an echo of laughter thrummed across the air, chilling her to the core. "Your choice will come, but are you ready for the truth?" A choice was looming, and the answer, she feared, would change everything. The ground split with a force that knocked Sarah off her feet. Panic surged through her, burning like ice in her veins as she struggled to rise. The laughter grew deafening, a cacophony that seemed to claw at her ears and rip her heart in two. "Ethan!" she screamed, but her voice was swallowed by the roar that surrounded her. Shadows loomed low, twisting and writhing, blotting out the last of the flickering light. The figures shifted in the chaos, swarming like frenzied insects. Each figure was a ghastly caricature of someone she might have once known, faces twisted in torment, each one a reflection of lost hope. She squeezed her eyes shut, wishing to wake from this nightmare, praying the world would return to its mundane familiarity. When she opened them, she saw the boy a silhouette against the shifting dark. "Help!" he cried, clawing at the ground as if it could anchor him. Sarah's heart shattered. "Don't let them take you!" she shouted, reaching for him, her hands slipping toward the void. The shadows seized him, pulling him down into their sickly embrace. "No!" Her fingers brushed against his before the darkness swelled again, pulling him deeper. Those unnatural figures encircled her, their whispers curling around her like dark smoke. "You're too late. He belongs to us now." She staggered back. "No. You're lying." Desperation flooded her, and suddenly, the boy's face flashed before her eyes. The genuine smile of the happy child she'd known, untainted by this haunting malevolence. "Sarah, help me," his voice echoed, heartbreaking and distant. "Stop. Let him go." She lunged toward the shadows, fists clenched. The laughter escalated, morphing into sinister howls that echoed through the trees. As if hearing her command, the ground shifted again, and a chilling wind howled through the clearing, stirring the very essence of her soul. Dark tendrils reached for her, slick as oil, wrapping around her legs like snakes searching for prey. She fought against them, knees buckling beneath her. "Choose." The voice boomed again, relentless. "Save him or save yourself." In that moment of chaos, Sarah felt a simmering darkness of her own rising within. What would it mean to choose? To abandon her brother? Their childhood laughter played like a haunting melody around her, drowning out the sinister taunts. "Maybe I could let go," she muttered, her thoughts racing faster than her heartbeat. But the thought felt like betrayal, a knife in her gut. She couldn't abandon him to this hell. The shadows paused, sensing her turmoil, and Sarah grasped for a thread of defiance that flickered dimly within. Together she rasped, her voice heavy yet unyielding. "We'll face this, whoever you are." The figures recoiled, uncertainty rippling through their forms. For a fleeting moment, the darkness hesitated. "Ah, but what do you truly know of fear?" One shadow hissed, slinking forward, its shape undulating unnaturally. Suddenly, an ear-splitting crack shattered the air. A fissure opened into the earth, bearing teeth of jagged stone and shadows deeper than the abyss. Ethan! She cried again, reaching. She could feel the warmth of hope draining away, replaced by cold terror flooding her limbs. But within the clarity of her fear, the flickering lantern of courage ignited anew. We are stronger. Foolish girl. The figure cackled. The choice will always return. The truth and its darkness is a mirror of your soul. No. Her voice boomed back, growing steady. I choose to fight. But just as she planted her foot and ready to summon her strength, the shadows lunged unanimously, swallowing the light more forcefully. With resolution coursing through her, she charged forward, only for a searing pain to slam against her chest, knocking the breath from her lungs. Gasping, she staggered, vision flickering. The world around her trembled, a distortion of nightmarish shapes spiraling into oblivion, the laughter still echoing, but now mingled with a high-pitched wail that sent shivers of despair slicing through her, and then silent. Sarah clutched her chest, heart racing. Had she broken through, or had she merely traded one nightmare for another? Darkness settled, thick and pregnant with dread. The shadows pulsed, pregnant with possibilities yet unspoken. Are you ready for the truth? After a pregnant pause, it drifted softly through the silence. But as the ground rumbled, Sarah felt fear mounting again, this time mingled with something else: anticipation. What awaited her in this uncanny dark? Embrace us and discover the truths yet shadowed, the figures whispered, seductively drawing her in. With every ounce of her being, Sarah braced for the unknown. What truth would the darkness reveal? Sarah's breath hitched as the shadows loomed closer, their shapes shifting, fluttering like moths drawn to a flame. Embrace us, they hissed, the words slithering into her mind. She fought back a wave of nausea that churned in her stomach. The last remnants of her bravery quavered. I will not. Sarah screamed, but the sound felt weak, lost in the thickness of the dark. The weight of despair pressed down on her, squeezing her resolve like a vice. She felt trapped, caught between her brother's anguish and the suffocating darkness, creeping closer, sultry and terrible. The shadows recoiled momentarily, as if stung by her defiance. A flicker of her childhood memories playing hide and seek with Ethan in the sun-drenched backyard, laughter ringing like wind chimes spurred her. You have no hold on me. She gasped, forcing the words out. Such a delightful illusion, a figure taunted, voice dripping with sarcasm. Do you really think those memories are enough to protect you? Truth awaits, child. The ground beneath her trembled again, and the fissure widened, its jagged edges leaking a sickly light that pulsed in time with her heartbeat. It felt alive and hungry, threatening to swallow her whole. Sarah felt cold tendrils of fear wrapping around her heart, constricting as she stepped back. Ethan! She yelled again, her voice trembling. Hang on. There was a flicker, a trace of his presence beneath the dark. From the deep, a shadow surfaced, his eyes wide with terror. Sarah, don't leave me. His voice was a fragile thread, just within her reach. She stumbled toward him, hands stretching desperately. No! The figures screamed, their laughter coiling into wicked melodies. He is ours. Forever. Sarah shuddered. The shadows tightened their grip on her, slick tendrils pulling back her resolve. Still, she couldn't waver. I'll find a way. She swore, though the conviction was bittersweet. With a surge of adrenaline, she lunged towards Ethan, hands grasping for something tangible. As if sensing her determination, the shadows flared, screeching with a fury that shook the air. The darkness erupted around her, swirling like a storm, and she stumbled, the ground shifting violently. She gasped, struggling against the pull, but the void opened wider, threatening to lead her down into fathomless depths. Is this the truth you're eager to embrace? One shadow taunted, its form flickering like a dying flame. Accept the void, it is all that's left for you. Joy is an empty promise. Let him go. Sarah screamed, her heart pounding, fire igniting within her. The shadows writhed, and for a heartbeat, it seemed as if they might relent. A decision must be made. The choice hung in the air like a pendulum. Behind her, a voice whispered, soft and insistent. "Sarah, you have to choose. Me or yourself. What will it be?" The duality of the moment clawed at her mind. "This isn't my truth," she shouted, grasping for clarity, the frantic beat of her heart urging her forward. Yet, the shadows deepened, and terror licked at her senses. The shadows do not lie, they sneered, gathering around her like wolves scenting blood. "He is already lost." "No." With a clarity piercing through the tumult, she bolted toward Ethan, propelled by a fierce determination. The shadows fought against her, but she would not yield again. "I choose to fight." But as she crossed the threshold of the light into the fissure, the ground gave way beneath her, collapsing into an endless abyss. With a final scream echoing into the night, she felt herself plummet, visions of her brother swirling above as she fell deeper, swallowed by the consuming darkness. All went blank for a moment, just a heartbeat of silence before a searing light exploded around her. The last thing she heard was his voice, faint but unmistakable. "Sarah," and then the darkness returned. Where had she landed? In the depths of fear, something stirred. The ground settled unnaturally around her, and as her vision blurred back into focus, she realized she was not alone. Shadows lurked, but now they were different. "Welcome home," one of them whispered, chilling her to the bone. What had she awakened in this new reality? The whisper echoed in Sarah's ears, a sinister melody that sent shivers down her spine. "Welcome home," it coiled around her like a snake, tightening with every heartbeat. With trembling hands, she pushed herself up, every nerve on high alert. Darkness enveloped her, thick and oppressive, but something flickered in the distance light. Maybe? Hope. She stumbled forward, hesitating as shadows flickered just beyond her reach. They twisted into grotesque shapes, whispers clawing at her sanity. "You're one of us now, Sarah. You chose to fight, but you lost." "No." Her voice broke, but she forced herself to keep moving. The darkness pressed in, each step a battle against overwhelming dread. The light shimmered ahead, inviting yet ominous, as if daring her to approach. There was a faint thumping sound, a heartbeat, or something more. She strained to listen, her heart racing, a rapid cadence against the sinister backdrop. A figure materialized within the glow, a silhouette framed by the pale illumination. It took a step forward, and recognition crashed over her in waves of nausea. "Ethan?" she whispered, eyes wide. "Is it you?" But as he stepped into the light, Sarah recoiled in horror. His face was twisted in agony, eyes vacant yet pleading. "Sarah, help me," he gasped, reaching out, but the shadows shifted, swirling violently around him like a tempest. "No! Get away from him!" Sarah screamed, lunging forward, desperate to save him. But just as her fingers brushed his, the shadows lunged, pulling him back into their embrace. "His soul belongs to the darkness," they screeched, tethering him firmly within those clutches of despair. "Ethan!" she cried out, tears spilling down her cheeks. "Fight them. You're stronger." For a split second, his expression lit up with clarity, an ember igniting in the dark. "I'm trying, Sarah." But there his voice faded into a whisper as the shadows crushed him tighter. Panic surged through her. The realization hit like a cold wave crashing down. She was in a nightmare, and she could not wake up. The weight of helplessness settled on her chest, suffocating. There had to be a way to save him. She summoned her strength, defiance surging through her. "You may think you can control him, but I won't give up." With every ounce of will she possessed, she stepped toward the swirling mass of darkness. "You don't own us." The shadows snarled, their voices a cacophony of rage. "You cannot escape your fate. You will join him in this void." The ground beneath her shook violently, and Sarah felt herself being pulled toward the chaos. "Stop!" She screamed, feeling weightless in that moment like gravity itself had given up. "Ethan, I can save you. Sarah!" he cried, desperation lacing his voice. "Don't come near me. I can't hold them back." The shadows snapped tighter around Ethan, their laughter a sickening sound, echoes of madness that gnawed at her resolve. "This is your truth, child," they hissed, voices reverberating through the air, "the truth you have chosen." "No. I forged this path." With newfound determination, she threw herself forward, arms outstretched towards her brother, the flickering light pulling her in. The moment her fingers brushed against the icy tendrils of shadow, a surge of energy crackled through her. The darkness recoiled, momentarily stunned. But then it retaliated, a tidal wave of darkness crashing down on her. "Foolish girl!" a voice thundered. "You cannot save him. You're destined to fall." But as they closed in, an overwhelming thought pierced through the shadows thrived on fear. She steeled herself, focusing on what she cherished. "I want to let you take him." The shadows fought against her, angry howls filling the void. And then Sarah felt something shift within her, the light within her flaring defiantly. "Ethan!" she shouted. "Hold on." Howling winds gusted around them, a violent confrontation brewing. But in that struggle, what darkness lingered within herself also began to resurface, clawing at her heart. What if she was not strong enough? What if would she sacrifice herself to save him, or would his darkness swallow them? Both, the ground trembled, pulling them deeper into chaos as darkness began to reclaim its territory. Who would pay the price, and what horror awaited them in this new abyss? Sarah's breath came in gasps as the shadows writhed around her, their sinister whispers intensifying as if feeding off her fear. She could feel the icy fingers of despair clawing at her heart, squeezing tighter with every word they spoke. "You think love can save you?" they hissed, voices dripping with mockery. "Love is merely a flicker of light in an endless void." "Shut up!" Sarah yelled, fighting to remain anchored to her determination. "I want to let you take him." Ethan's face flickered between despair and faint glimmers of recognition. "Sarah," his voice trembled through the chaos. "I can't hold them. You need to go." Panic surged through her, a heart-wrenching desperation. She could feel the weight of darkness pulling at her, dragging her closer to the very fate she feared. "No." She took a bold step forward, reaching for Ethan. "I can't leave you." But the shadows surged forward, a dark wave crashing over her, threatening to engulf her whole. They shrieked and laughed, an echoing cacophony that tugged at her sanity. In that moment, she felt a surge of power weaving through her very essence. It stirred something deep within, a flicker of hope igniting against the consuming darkness. "Fight them, Ethan. Remember us." She cried out, anger and love intermingling, bright against the murky surroundings. "What we had, what we shared, it's stronger than this." The shadows froze momentarily, caught off guard. Ethan's face flickered again, that momentary light breaking through the suffocating haze. I remember." His voice got louder, clearer. "Stay with me. For you, I will." She shouted back. With those words, something shifted. Sarah felt the warmth of her memories flooding back, an echo of laughter in summer, the shared secret of midnight snacks, whispers of dreams once unbroken. She allowed those memories to buoy her, to take root in her spirit. The shadows recoiled as if stung by the power of her emotions. "Stop. You think you can resist?" they bellowed, but the fury in their voices wavered. The encroaching darkness began to recede slightly, allowing an ethereal glow to brighten the dim landscape. "Together, Ethan. We can do this," she cried. His expression morphed into one of fierce determination. "We will fight," he echoed, and suddenly, the warmth of their connection blended with the defiance coursing through her. The shadows hissed furiously, growing agitated as she stepped forward, hand intertwined with Ethan's. The power of their bond radiated in waves, enough to cause the shadows to back away. "No. It cannot be. Let him go," Sarah shouted. With all her strength, she pulled Ethan closer, drawing on her memories and love, transforming it into a weapon, a shield against the overwhelming horror. She could feel the darkness warping, twisting, straining against the purity that surrounded them. "Your truth is your weakness," the voices screamed, now frantic, dissonance reverberating through the air, but Sarah's resolve held steady as she shouted the words of strength. "No. This is my truth. Love transcends fear." As she invoked the power of their shared love, the shadows shrieked in anger, falling back like smoke in the wind. The light grew brighter, filling the dark abyss with blinding radiance. In that heartbeat, Sarah felt as if they were breaking free from the malevolent chains that had sought to bind them. With a final burst of energy, the dark figures exploded into mist, evaporating under the suffocating weight of their joy and love. "We're free!" Ethan cried, stepping forward, and together they burst through the lingering haze like the sun piercing through storm clouds. As they stumbled out onto solid ground, their hearts synchronized in exhilaration, they found themselves back at the edge of their world. Vivid colors filled their surroundings, a stark contrast to the void they'd escaped. A bright sun dipping below the horizon, cloaking everything in a golden hue. "Is it over?" she asked, breathless. Ethan turned to her, his eyes shining with warmth. "As long as we hold tight to each other, it will be." Sarah wrapped her arms around him, chasing away the haunting memories. "We'll always fight for each other." And in that embrace, love poured through her, a lasting armor against the shadows of fear. Together, they turned from the abyss, their hearts beating a rhythm of hope, ready to reclaim their lives, knowing that whatever darkness lurked, they could always find the light, and from that moment on, no Craigslist ad would lure her into the depths of despair again. She would use her story. You never know when someone else might need it. Now, before we finish this journey together, I need you to do something. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss our next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and show your support. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about tonight's ending. And please, instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who absolutely need to see this conclusion. This is the moment to stand with us. Don't wait even one more second to share and be part of our community.